All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to talk to you about best practices for merge request UX reviews in this UX showcase. My name is Pedro Moreira da Silva, and I'm the staff product designer in the Create Code Review area of GitLab. And coincidentally, working in code review, and today talking about not necessarily code reviews, which is very similar to merge request UX reviews, but in this case, more reviews for product designers. And so a bit of an introduction first to understand what these reviews are. So we usually call them merge request UX reviews or product design merge request reviews. And basically, almost all merge requests, or MRs for short, change the UX in one way or another. But product designers are only required to review and approve merge requests with user-facing changes. And user-facing changes include both visual changes, regardless of how minor, and also changes to the rendered DOM that impact how a screen reader may announce the content. We know that MRs with only backend changes sometimes affect the UX. For example, performance changes, sorting of lists, etc., but you are not required to review them unless they fall under the definition of user-facing changes. And you can visit, or you should visit these links that I have here, the guidelines, and I've shared them in the UX showcase agenda as well. We first have a general code review guidelines that apply to any kind of merge request reviews, regardless of the area, backend, front end, database, UX. And then we have the second link for specific guidelines or for product design reviews. So check them out if you haven't already and read them in full, because there are a lot of great information there. In general, merge request reviews, code reviews, or UX reviews, the ultimate goal is to improve the product. And by doing this, we also have the ability to mentor others, share knowledge, and identify defects. So this is incredibly important. And this presentation comes at a time where we have changed how we are receiving and requesting reviews from product designers. So today we have two ways of assigning merge requests for reviews. The first one, stage group merge requests. And these should be reviewed by the designer that is suggested by the reviewer roulette. So this is to balance out all of the merge request reviews across all of the product. And these MRs should have a well-documented design solution. And your role as a reviewer is to ensure that the solution is developed as intended. Still, there may be scenarios where an MR is based on a previous conversation, or it proposes a solution that did not have a design associated with it. So if this happens, involve the design DRI, and they will ensure that the requirements are there. And when ready, they will then request a review from you again, the suggested UX reviewer. Community contributions, they're a little bit different. Usually they require much more context to review of the product area. So we still review or still assign to the design DRI of the group so that they can review. In both cases, the assignments are manual. They're not automatic. So you have to pay a lot of attention to the merge request and understand which kind of merge request it is and assign it to the right person. So talking about stage group merge request assignments, as I said, we want to assign to the suggested designer. And this suggestion comes in the form of a comment that is made by our danger bot. This comment, you see an example here on the right, it's added to the merge request, and it's generated through a job in a pipeline, the danger review job. It has a lot of information, and as part of that information, it has a table with different categories, backend, front-end, and UX, and it suggests reviewers and maintainers. So if this merge request requires a UX review, check the comment first to see who you should assign it to. If there's no suggestion there, it may be because the UX label is lacking from the merge request. So add the UX label and then retry the danger review job, and it will appear. As you can see here in this example, Nick was suggested as the UX reviewer. If you want more information and understand how the suggestion worked, take a look at the GitLab review workload dashboard. There's a link here to all available UX reviewers for the GitLab project. And it's also used, and you can see reviewers for basically all projects at GitLab, including Pajamas, GitLab UI, and others, and filter out through many different criteria. To ensure swift feedback to ready to review code, we maintain a first response service level objective, or SLO for short, and that is 2 business days to respond after you've been requested to review. And to maintain this SLO, there are 3 things that I'd like to talk with you about. So regarding workload. So the first one is, how do you balance merge request reviews? The most important thing to understand is that merge request reviews are the top priority for product designers. That's the most important thing. If you only do one thing today, for example, is to review a merge requests and clear them out and unblock others so that we can maintain the velocity of improving the product. And to do that, one thing you could try is just blocking out time to review them each day. That's something that I personally do. You can dedicate 30 minutes, 1 hour each day, or and spread that out throughout the week, but that might help you find the time you need to review them. To manage expectations, if you're unable to review something within those 2 business days, inform the author right away and help them find another reviewer. And after you've done that, remove yourself as a reviewer, of course. And in general, if you're struggling with merge request reviews, inform your manager right away so that they can help you find a way to deal with them better. And finally, there are a couple of tricks that related to the statuses in GitLab or Slack that you can use to signal your availability if you don't want to be picked at all in suggestions, if you want to be picked less, or even if you want to be picked more because you love reviews. So check out that link that is from that slide to understand how you can use emojis for that effect. Okay, so you receive the review request. What is the first thing you do? It's now ready to be reviewed, right? So not so fast. As part of the understanding the MR, the first thing you need to do is check if the description is complete. And there are 4 main parts of the description that should be completed, and you need to ask the author to complete them if they're not there. So the first one is what and why, to understand what is the intention of the merge request, what is the scope that we're dealing with, what is included in this merge request, and maybe the author may split a certain feature across many merge requests. So you have to understand what is included here so that you know where to direct your comments. Then you have screenshots and recordings that may help you understand, and also for posterity, if you want them to look back at what a merge request did, they're really important. Setup instructions to know how to validate, for example, which feature flag you need to enable. And finally, a link to the related issues so that you can understand the design solution and the context for it. For community contributions, there's a specific thing you need to look at, which is to check if the source branch is up to date. And when reviewing MRs in the context of recent changes, that can help prevent hidden runtime conflicts and promote consistency. So if it's more than 1,000 commits behind the target branch, ask the author to rebase it. And you can see this information on the merge widget. You can see an example here that says the source branch is X commits behind the target branch. With stage group MRs, thanks to merge results pipelines, we no longer have to rebase their branches as frequently anymore. Okay, so now previewing the merge request and starting the review. We have this handbook page that talks about, this handbook section in the How We Work page that talks about how you can preview, test, and contribute. Talks about the methods, how-tos, and where to find help if you're stuck. But in the next presentation, Sanjung will go into detail about how and when to use which live environment for your merge request reviews. Okay, after all of this, can we finally review the merge request? I think we can, as long as GDK is not broken, right? So reviewing the merge request. So first things first, try to be thorough in your reviews to reduce the number of iterations. Use the design and UI changes checklist to review. And because this checklist will help you make sure all main aspects are covered, you can see a screenshot of that checklist here on the right. It covers writing, patterns, visual design, states, responsiveness, accessibility, how to hand off. It's not meant to be, comprehensive, or you don't have to check all of those points, but they're helpful reminders of what you need to take a look at when reviewing any merge request. And finally, stick to the UX requirements in the issue to avoid unnecessary work or rework or scope creep. And we'll also see and talk about follow-ups in the next slides. Now, when you're actually pointing out certain things that need to be improved, try to separate each topic into its own common thread so that they can be discussed and resolved separately. And if possible, create threads on the lines of code related to the topic. And as you can see here in this example on the right, we're only talking about a specific thing. And here I made a comment just about that thing with its own thread, and other topics are discussed in other threads. To be clear about what is required for the author to address or resolve the issue, consider using conventional comments, which is a specific format where you use certain prefixes in your comments to indicate the intent. As you can see here at the top, nitpick, issue, question. And then also, in this case, for a suggestion, you can indicate with non-blocking if it's something that is optional to resolve, or if it's something that we can follow up later. There's a Chrome and Firefox add-on that you can use to apply these conventional comment prefixes. And finally, product designers are usually visual people, so try to explain visually and share screenshots that are annotated or screen recordings in your comments whenever possible. And visual materials make issues clearer and communication more efficient. You can also highlight differences between what's implemented in the MR and what's expected using a markdown table, as you can see here on the right with the column current, this MR, and proposal. And then finally, don't forget to praise. So try to find something every time that is worth praising the author for, like a thorough MR description or their attention to detail on a certain aspect, but don't make empty praises. Only praise them if you recognize the value of what they've done. And finally, we're in the last stages of the review and we hand off the MR. So how do we do that? After each review round, you should remove yourself as a reviewer and post a summary comment, letting the author know if changes are required following your review. And when you're confident that it meets all requirements, you should first approve. And then if more approvals are needed, for example, from a front end or back end, try to request a review from the next reviewer or maintainer. The reviewer-led suggestions are a good starting point to find out who should review next. Also, after you completed your review, if it's for a stage group MR, try to inform the design DRI of the group for awareness so that they know that what if they designed is now built and is ready to be shipped. For follow-ups, there are three main parts that I want to talk about. The first is intentional deviations from UX requirements. And for that, you create issues with the UX depth label and try to link back to the corresponding issues or merge requests. For changes or improvements, create issues labeled according to our work type classification. Usually, for UX related follow-ups, we use the feature enhancement or maintenance usability labels. And don't forget to also create issues in pajamas if there are additions or enhancements to the design system. And finally, if you complete an MR for work that isn't within your specific group, consider following up with the original author, with the original designer to discuss their documentation. For example, this was unclear in the design solution and documentation. In the future, you may want to do something. It is like a casual retrospective, and it can be, synchronous or asynchronous. Again, learn more, and please read these two guidelines, the general code review guidelines and the specific product design review guidelines. And I hope this was helpful. Happy reviewing, and I'm here to help in any way I can. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much.